right, so question A. It says, so we're on the back. How high was the ball when it was hit? It's maybe the easiest question. How high was it when the baseball was first hit? It's easy to do, but you have to know how to find a number. There's no number in that question. How high was the ball when it was hit?
Was it hit at 0?
So that's what you need to know. So it was hit at 0 what? Seconds. So we know that the time is 0 seconds. And we want to know how high it goes. Well, I didn't follow my own advice here. My own advice was write down next to this equation what each of the part actually means. In the reading it says that its height is given by this equation. So this is the equation for the height. And that little t means the time in seconds. So you're not going to need any calculus in this question. All you're going to need to do is plug the 0 into that equation, which is easy to do. When you plug 0 in, you get 4. So the height equals 4 feet off the ground, which makes sense because the baseball player is actually hitting it. So about 4 feet off the ground. How high was the ball after 1 second? So now we're warmed up with question A. Question B is actually simpler. What are they telling us? Right. They're saying 1 second. So the question number, or letter B, T is 1 second. So
that's the answer? Oh.
Well, you have to still plug it in to figure out how high off the ground is it after 1 second. So it would be negative 16 times 1 squared plus 44 times 1 plus 4. Comes out to be 32 feet off the ground. Okay. Question C. It's so funny that you guys seem a little bit different since the camera's on. You're like afraid to like talk it up.
I just said something retarded, so sorry.
Okay, well. I'm sure I'll make some mistakes too on camera. So question C. When does the ball reach a height of 28 feet? Right. So question A, B, and C has nothing to do with calculus. So that's the important thing to remember in this unit. Sometimes you can be doing derivatives, sometimes you're not. Question C. When does the ball reach a height of 28 feet? So they're telling us that S is 28. Does it say anything about the velocity? So we're not dealing with anything with the calculus yet. So 28 is our height. So all you have to do is go to the original equation. You're not plugging 28 in for t, because 28 is the height. 28 is the S. So the equation looks like this. And then what?
Bring over the 20.
Yeah, so subtract. You can subtract 28 from both sides to get 0. And that gets us going in the right direction. Now what?
Quadratic formula.
Yeah, the quadratic formula could work. Will always work to give us some answers. What you can do instead is you can actually try to factor this one, and this one actually can be factored. What's the greatest common factor that can be divided out of 16, 44, and negative 24? Is 4. You're actually doing yourself a favor by dividing out a negative 4. Again, you could use the quadratic formula. You could use the quadratic formula to do this, but instead, let's practice the borrow and payback method. But before we get to the borrow and payback, let's take out our greatest common factor. You can divide out a 4. Dividing out a negative 4 is actually a little bit of a slicker move because it gives us a positive in the very beginning. What'd you say?
I wouldn't have known to do that.
Well, maybe no one's ever told you before. So if you divide out a negative, it's going to flip this sign, right, to a negative. That's going to make that a positive. So, I don't know, it's slightly dangerous to do this. But danger is my middle name. Actually, it's Edward, but...
Really?
We're having so much fun on YouTube today. Even though we're not on YouTube yet, but you know. So now you can use borrow and pay back for this area here. Remember how that goes? Borrow the 4 and give it to the 6.
Yeah.
And then factor what you see. I mean, maybe it's easier to use the quadratic formula. I don't know. Probably, but you factor what you see and you get -8 and -3.
Can you just forget about the -4?
Yeah, it's not going to produce any answers.
No, that
so.
wouldn't work because it'd be plus 24 at the end.
It's
Oh, there
4t
should be a
minus
plus here.
3t
But you
minus
can't
2.
because you're giving it the -4, right? Oh,
No, it's multiplied by
okay.
positive
All
4.
right,
So
never
good catch. See, I make mistakes too. I do things that are, well, you said retarded before. I don't care for that phrase, but I do things that are messed up sometimes. So very good. So thank you, CJ. And then, well, before we actually cross the finish line, we got to pay back the 4.
Always the
Now you can divide out a 4 from here, and you get t minus 2. So where are we at then? You're setting this equal to 0, and you get 2 possible answers.
Yeah, but sublayer.
So we get t minus 2, and we got 4t minus
You get positive
3
2.
equals 0. So you get 2 answers, t equals 2. And what would it take to make this
3 4.
0? Add 3 and divide by 4. And one of the reasons I'm putting this on YouTube is so that you have it as an extra thing to actually look back at, to recapture all the fun we had, but also to remember kind of how it goes. So it does make sense that at a 3/4 second mark, the ball is 28 feet off the ground, and at the 2-second mark. I don't think the ball went very far.
So
Didn't go very high.
from the middle, will those two numbers be the same distance away? Like from when it's at 0 in the middle?
It won't because the ball is actually starting off the ground.
Oh no.
Oh, okay.
And
We have an interruption.